Let's talk about grit. 3 minutes on resilience and grit. So just a quick reminder, because we haven't talked about this in a couple of weeks. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It is a mental toughness. And now one way to develop resilience is by developing grit. Now, what is grit? Grit is a dogged, tough resourcefulness. Now, you can develop grit mentally, and you can develop grit physically. We're going to talk about 3 specific ways to develop grit and the elements in each of those ways. Number 1 is something that I call by being active. The second thing we're going to talk about is determination, and the last thing we're going to talk about is vitality. So as far as what I'm talking about being active, this is very much a mental, learning how to become mentally gritty, and sort of developing that tough resourcefulness. So one way to develop grittiness is by being active, and being active means that you choose to influence the outcome of the situation as opposed to allow the situation to happen to you. In other words, you are the hammer, you are not the nail. So you choose to become active in a situation rather than passive. You are proactive instead of being reactive. And for me, the way that I think about this personally, I think about it being, even into my 30s, having Tourette syndrome, was the tics from Tourette syndrome they were very embarrassing to me, and I felt very much like a victim. But when I started speaking on having Tourette syndrome, I went from being passive to being active, and I actually took some control over that in my mental headspace. Now, the next element is determination. Determination also builds grit. Now, there's a couple of elements of determination we can talk about. There is resolve, patience, and persistence. And I'll explain this in the form of a very brief illustration. When I started building my business in my 20s and I wanted to become a professional magician, I didn't know much about business, but I knew a lot about magic. And I was basically willing to do whatever it took in order to build a business. And what this meant was that I had resolve. I was very serious about my goal to build my business. I had patience, which meant I was willing to wait. I was willing to stay steadfast even when there were delays in the process of building up clients. And lastly, I took action every day. I was persistent. Small, sustained efforts over time is how you build that determination through resolve, persistence, and patience. So we've talked about being active, we talked about determination, and the last element of becoming more gritty is vitality. Now, vitality is often physical in nature, but it can also be mental as well. The idea is that you accept and you appreciate and you nurture your body, because your body is where your energy comes from. And when I was talking about compassion a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about, shouldn't you treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend? The same idea here it goes for the way that you treat your body. Do the things that you know you should do. Get regular sleep, exercise, limit the amount of intoxicants going in your body. By doing those things, that helps you build vitality and that energy. And with vitality, with determination, and by being active, you can build your mental and your physical grit. So, Steve, what does that bring to mind? Anything to you, my friend?
Yeah, you lost me at limit intoxicants, though. So. I'm kidding. I heard something great the other day. Somebody said, "How are you going to exit from isolation? As a hunk, a chunk, or a drunk?"
Yeah, a hunk, a chunk, or a drunk. Yeah, I heard that the first time I heard that saying, I was on, you're going to laugh, I was on a military tour, and I was on Diego Garcia, which is a tiny island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And they said that's like the one thing that everybody gets asked. They say, are you going to be a hunk, a chunk, a drunk, or maybe they had something else. Maybe it was a lunk. I can't remember what it was, but it was very funny. I love that saying.
As far as grit, though, so there was one little piece that I left out of my journey. Okay. When I was an entertainer, I had a chance to do a speaking program. So this was before I would start my speaking business. I'm like, okay, great. And I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about the mind, how the mind works, because I'm a mentalist, So I came up with this program. I thought it was the best thing ever. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be a whole new revenue source for me, new career. I gave that, and it bombed pretty much. I wasn't horrible, but it really just was not very good. I didn't, you
Yeah.
can tell when you talk to people after it, and they say,
Yeah.
thank you. They say, thank you. They don't say, oh, it was great. They say, oh, thank you so much, but
You were remarkable.
yeah.
In what way?
Right. That's something we'll never forget.
Yeah.
So that actually spooked me. And I was the opposite of good at that point, because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be a speaker. And I did not push, forward with that. I did not see what I could do to get better, until a couple of years later, when I decided, okay, I'm going to have a real go at this. I am going to forget about that failure, that didn't work very well. And I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get better, and I'm going to do better. And then when I started, I was doing free programs for a lot of civic organizations. And it's like, first I was just vomiting information on them. I didn't really know how to be a engaging speaker, even though I came from an entertainment background. I had all this knowledge. I thought they want knowledge, and I kind of overwhelmed them. So it took me a while to work it, hone it, learn about the speaking business and how to speak. Exactly.
You were persistent.
And I did. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to get paid. And then, over time, my fees can go up, and people are saying nicer things than just thank you after the program.
Exactly.